Teddy, would you sit up, please? Good boy. Okay, you ready? We're going to get started. Look at the camera. You look at the camera and we say hello. It's Pet Talk with Anna and Teddy. We look at the camera. Okay, all right. You want to say hello? Yeah, you say hello. You wave. Oh, okay. We're doing that instead, are we? How about we speak and say hello? We speak? Okay, that was good. That was a hello from Teddy. I'm getting impatient. I want my treat. And that's enough from Teddy for now. Let's speak to our wonderful guest, who is Collette, and from Lead and Listen. And she's here today, and I'm so grateful. Thank you for joining us.
No problem.
Collette, the reason I wanted you to be part of our program is because I had the wonderful experience of attending one of your gun dog workshops. Mm-hmm. And I love the way you work. Sorry, Teddy's got himself very excited here. I love the way that you work because you just showed such an understanding of dogs, and your way of training them is so positive and really showing almost, yes, you're doing the leading, but you are listening, which means that you're letting them lead to a certain extent, which I think is a beautiful approach.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Yeah, I remember that workshop. It was a lovely group of dogs, and Teddy was great.
Teddy had a great time. He decided he's going to take part in this for the time being. So what is your ethos at Lead and Listen?
Well, firstly, I'll say I've just moved. I don't know if you probably don't know this, but I moved to Wales a year ago, and I'm now got a business in Wales called Completely Gun Dog. So I've just switched to a new business, but my Lead and Listen still happens in Surrey with my trainer Louise. So it's still Lead and Listen, but I'm now under the new name Completely Gun Dogs. So my ethos is, I think most gun dogs are one of the most popular pets, aren't they, as far as the breeds that people choose to have with their families and as pets. But a lot of them have been bred to work, and they have some potentially behavior issues if they're not worked, but people don't want to work the dogs because they're pets. So the idea is that we can introduce pet gun dogs to the ideas of sort of training them to be steady, to walk on the lead nicely, to do nice long sit stays whilst there's distractions around, and retrieve to hand, so that they can be easy pets to live with, because without that stimulation and that sort of doing what they want to do, which is work, they can be a bit unruly. So my ethos is giving pet dogs an outlet for their natural drives and desires. So rather than trying to stop them and constantly saying it's a problem behavior, they're hunting and they're pulling and their desire to engage in the environment, we see it as a positive. We just have to nurture it, and it's on our sort of, it's in our control to a certain extent, because we allow them to do some hunting but with us, and that seems to really help a lot of these pet gun dogs.
You know, when you were talking about the walking on the lead nicely, I can tell you that was absolutely the hardest thing about training Teddy. I found he was, I'll tell you, we were in our puppy class, and our teacher had taught us that if they're pulling, to just stop, and then to start when they stop. I took 2 steps and then stood there for the entire, 5 minutes, whatever it was that the practice lasted, with Teddy on his hind legs, trying to reach every dog that went near us. And that really sums up training Teddy to walk on the lead in the first 8 months, because I think it took him maturing a little bit before it really got to a stage where he was actually interested in listening. And treats, I had the Rolls Royce. I carried cooked liver with me whenever I went out. But all he wanted to do was sniff, run. And if I was prepared to run with him, we were fine. There was no problem.
Yeah,
But
they just wanted to be faster. Yeah.
He wanted to do everything all at once. And so I used to watch people women walking with prams and their dogs sedately. And I used to think, that's just never going to happen. Well, it has happened. But when you said that, it really made me think. It made me.
It's a really hard thing. I had a beginner group up here for gun dog training, and one dog was a really highly aroused kind of go-y dog who, like your dog, just wants to be doing and being in the environment rather than being with his owner. And the problem was every step that dog took a huge amount of impulse control to be able to remain at heel, because it just didn't want to be doing that pace of life. And I said, the problem is you don't want to sort of keep using food, as in I use food for training, but you want the dog to be choosing to be with you because something great's going to happen with you, rather this constant sort of battle of, conflict of interest with the heel work. So I sort of said to her, like your dog, if you do just one step at heel, I'll let you run. If you do now 2 steps at heel, I'll let you chase this ball. If you do a little bit more heel work, you can hunt the grass. So you let them do what they want, but they've just got to do small amounts of impulse control before they get access to it. And before you know it, the dogs are actually going, this is the good bit. If I get to heel, she's going to give me an opportunity to do the hunting and chasing and running. So it's but it is hard, because when they're in that environment, food doesn't always cut it, does it? They just don't care.
I mean, he loves food, but when he was outdoors I'd say in the first 18 months, that was a second to anything else. And I love what you said there about letting them to do something they like. And then, because what I decided was I wasn't going to have a power struggle with Teddy. It just wasn't going to happen. And so what I used to do, because I realized his need to run and sniff everything was much stronger at the start of a walk. So we used to run at the start of the walk, and then we would practice walking back. And there were days, this is before he was 8 months old, there were days where even then we could be standing for 5 minutes before he decided that perhaps he might move forward. And I used to call it our walk of shame. I used to pick him up and carry him home, because I thought, this is not going to work today. But what I used to do is I used to read him and work with him. And somehow we muddled along, and he's great on the lead now. So I could really relate to what you said there.
Yeah, heel work, it's so hard for dogs to master, and some dogs obviously find it easier than others. And heel work for gun dogs, especially spaniels, and obviously you've got a mix there, is really challenging. And I just find if you have all the excitement with you and just do a few steps of, be with me, and I'm going to talk to them and be really positive and excited, and then say, now you can chase this ball, they're with you because they want to be with you, not because of food, not because of a lure. They're there because you're promising them that if they just hang out with you, you're going to give them access to some good stuff, and then you develop it. And it's all about the bond. If your dog thinks that you are the provider of everything that they love in their lives, they will want to be with you. But often everything they want in their lives is away from you, isn't it? It's kind of, and that's the problem, is that they don't realize you're the key to getting stuff. They think you're actually punishing them and stopping them from having what they want.
Yeah, and that's why, when he was that young puppy, if I saw that this wasn't going to work and I had to get home, I preferred to carry him than to allow him to get frustrated, and to allow us both to get frustrated.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just didn't want it to be a negative experience. So that was my strategy. One of the things I really loved, because we're talking about gun dogs, was being in an environment where actually all the dogs were gun dogs. And I think on that day, most of them were spaniels. And I got to see because I'd never been on a workshop where it was mostly dogs like Teddy. So I, you know, I didn't appreciate how much of a spaniel thing boredom was at workshops. You know, even going back to puppy class, we were in like a stable environment, so it was a soft ground. And when teacher was giving us instructions, he'd be digging as if he was, you know, getting to the other side of the world. He was just bored. He wanted something to do. And I saw that with the other dogs, and I thought, oh yeah, that's I know that. By this point, he was much more chilled than he used to. But the younger ones in the group, I thought, huh, yes.
Yeah, my paddock in West End used to be full of holes from cockers in there, not coping very well with the waiting game, and taking out their frustrations on digging, because that's all they had left. It was either barking or digging, and those are the behaviours that they had to exhibit because they couldn't do. So obviously we would always discourage that and say, actually, just take them for a little sniffy walk so that you can give them a bit of downtime, because you don't want them rehearsing too much of that. But it is, it's often a spaniel problem. Labs are a lot better at waiting and being steady and patient, but the spaniels struggle.
Well, you'll be happy to know that this morning I was doing yoga, and Teddy wanted me to open the door for him, and I was in no position to open the door for him. And I said to him, wait a minute. And he sat and he waited. So that's how far we've come.
Excellent. Excellent.
I say to him, just wait a minute, and he knows to wait. So this is how far he's come. The other thing I loved was the way that some of the dogs, when we were doing retrieving work, they were running off with the toy and not coming back. And I remember that with Teddy. And I hear so many people say, oh, you know, my dog, you know, won't fetch, it won't retrieve. But it takes work, doesn't it? They're just not going to just do it.
Yeah, the chasing is instinctive, the hunting is instinctive, the grab's instinctive. The bringing it back and giving it up, that's not a natural thing for a dog to do. Some are bred to do it more naturally. So the retriever breeds obviously do, they're more likely to choose to come in quite naturally. And as long as you don't mess it up on the way, as in some owners punish the dogs picking things up because they shouldn't pick up certain items, and they ruin their natural retrieve because the dog feels like they're in trouble every time they pick something up and bring it to them. So as long as you don't interfere with the natural retrieve and rejoice and praise everything they bring to you and take it and swap it and sort of make it worth their while. Retriever breeds do it quite naturally, but the problem is with the spaniel breeds, which they've got a bit more desire to hunt and find than actually bring back. So that's where you get more spaniels resource guard, because they've been bred to hunt and find, but the actual bringing back is, they're more flushing birds, so they hunt on scent and they flush the birds, but the actual retrieving part of the chain is just not strong. So they do struggle with retrieving. So like you said, you witness plenty of dogs, you know, bogging off with the retrieve, having a fun time holding it, knowing that you can't catch them, and it can become quite a pressure filled game if you're not careful. So you have to just, you know, do lots of swapsy games where chase this, and when you see me, I'm going to chuck another one and chase that one, until you take away the threat of you taking the item. And before you know it, the dog's bringing it in for you to throw it again. But you just have to be consciously aware of how it must feel to them, you taking their thing that they've just hunted for away from them. So you just have to be really considerate and understanding, and try and make them feel like giving to you is a really good thing for them to do.
It always seemed perfectly natural to me that if I've worked for something and found it, it's treasure. And I appreciate somebody just coming along and taking it away from me.
It's for all that hard work, I'm going to take that now. Yeah.
So I put the effort in. I found it. Why should you have it? That's theft. You know.
That's right. Yeah.
So it always made absolute sense to me that this is how Teddy would behave. But in fact, you know, I just instinctively, well, I remember learning about resource guarding with our puppy school teacher, and her saying to us, just do lots of swaps, and that worked beautifully. But the retrieving side, the actual bringing, I remember just throwing him the ball in the garden, and this little puppy looking at me. I think he might have been about 12 or 13 weeks, and having chased it and had a nice time, and then discovering, oh, he's not going to bring it back.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. So what do I do now? And all I started to do is I started to get excited the minute he went for the ball.
Mm-hmm.
And then slowly it was the minute he has the ball and faces me with it. Mm-hmm. And I just built it up really slowly. But it's wonderful, because when you get them doing that, that's the foundation for all sorts of work that they could do around the house. Like, yep. He brings me my slippers, he puts my shoes away, he go to the washing machine. It's a wonderful thing. Once you teach them that,
yeah,
the door's open for so much more, isn't it?
And we use it more than anything for gun dog work. We use it for rewarding good behaviour. So if you teach them how to retrieve and they enjoy it, so they get a chance to chase, basically, but they also do the bit they may not be so bothered about, which is bringing it in. You can reward recall. So you reward a dog, coming in nicely on a recall whistle or a word, with the chance to chase the ball, because they'll bring it back. So you don't lose your dog as soon as you give them the reward. I do lots of heel work, where if they do some nice heel work, they get to chase a ball, which is no good if they run off with the ball, is it? Because there's your training game ended. So they have to bring it back. So teaching a retrieve reduces resource guarding, obviously, because you've taught them to bring it in is a good thing. It helps with rewarding behaviours that are a bit tricky for them, because you're giving them a much bigger reward than a piece of food, because you're getting them to hunt and chase and grab prey. So I just found it was the best way to reward my dogs. For even my spaniel, I've rehomed a spaniel, and he'll take food, and he loves food, but when he's out there with the opportunity to hunt and chase, the food is negligent. He'll eat it, but he would not be reinforced by it. It's kind of, I'll just do it because it's there. So it's important to give him a ball to chase and for him to bring back. So I've got control over him.
We've mentioned impulse control quite a lot. It might be worth explaining exactly what we mean by that, and perhaps you can talk a little bit about how we can help our dogs develop it.
Yeah, so in gun dog world work, we on a shoot day, they would be expected for the Labradors of the breed to sit quietly whilst they shoot birds and wait for them to land, and then when they've done all the shooting and it's safe, the dogs would come in and they would pick the game and bring it all back. Especially anything injured, it would be the priority to bring injured birds back. So they have to learn to do a sit stay, basically, with lots of distractions. Likewise, they need to heal with distractions. So they might do a shoot where they walk through the cover and birds flush up, and they have to be steady and have impulse control and not chase. So no chasing, no grabbing, no leaving heel. Because we need the dogs to be safe those kind of shoot scenarios. But with that, you obviously, if you pass it on to sort of pet dog life, you have a dog that can walk on a lead through a town. You've got a dog that you can leave in a sit stay with dogs running past whilst you go and do something, without them breaking, and they can tolerate life better because they have impulse control. They have control over their urges, and you've taught them and helped them cope with life as a pet.
Does this help in terms of reactivity, do you think?
Yeah, I do. I think there's a lot of reactivity. It depends on obviously the reasons, but it's a dog that's losing control over itself for a moment or two, be it intolerant, scared, angry, whatever the emotional state the dog is. For a moment, it's losing control over, it's staying calm and able to control itself, and then it stops. So definitely, the more we teach them to control themselves around stimuli, I think the better behaved, or the easier they are to have out and about, because they've got that control over themselves. A lot of dogs that are reactive, that's the problem, isn't it? That they just cannot control their emotions. And that's what reactivity is. It's not an aggressive dog. It's a dog that just is either immature, overstimulated, overtired, under socialized, obviously, and they just haven't had the experience or training to control their urges, be it, you know, any of those things. And I do think gun dog work can really help with them, especially gun dogs. Dogs that are bred as gun dogs are quite often very sensitive, because they have to be very, very talented in the field. They have to notice everything. They have to hear and make sense of everything. They have to, you know, not miss a thing, because they need to find everything and do it quickly. So these dogs that end up in pet homes are oversensitive to a lot of general life in a home. So the noises and the neighbors' kids and people banging on the door, people coming and going that are all different, it can really stress them out, and it can make them reactive. So I definitely think giving them an opportunity to do gun dog work can fulfill their needs, and then they're much calmer, happier pets, because they're just not, they're kind of, their needs are met, and they feel much more relaxed because they've had that stimulation in the right way, not in the wrong way. So
yes, you mentioned the sensitivity and the observing. I, you know, we often joke that Teddy doesn't just have eyes on the back of his head. He's just got them all the way around, because there isn't a thing he doesn't notice. You know, I was joking with my partner the other day. I was saying, you know, he could be on mastermind on the ways of mummy, you know, because he predict everything I'm going to do next. And particularly, you know, obviously if it's a routine, he knows exactly when I'm going to finish my breakfast, because he knows I'm going to grab my jar of vitamin tablets.
And body language and predicting cues coming.
He just observes everything. He misses nothing. And the sensitivity, he's really good about things like fireworks and things like that. But, you know, car doors slamming, people walking and talking as they go past, that kind of, you know, it really sets him off. And he is very, very sensitive to noise. I hadn't thought about it being a trait of the breed, but clearly it is.
It is. If they weren't sensitive, as in alert to their environment, and their senses were nice and sharp, they would be a rubbish gun dog. They wouldn't hear that sort of rustle in the bushes where a bird's injured and crawling away, and they need to be aware of that. They wouldn't notice the man with the gun that's just raised it because it's about to shoot a bird, and it's caught their eye, and they can mark it, they can watch where the bird lands. They would miss all of that, and they would just not be very good at taking out on a shoot. So we want these you know, these intelligent, sharp, focused dogs who can get the job done quickly and efficiently. But in a pet home, without working the dog, like a collie, you know, like a border collie, they are challenging because they've got all this natural talent and desire to work, and they haven't got an outlet for it. And just being a pet in a home, just the odd walk, is just not cutting it, you know. And you know, walk your dog by all means, but give them like work to do during the walk. So make them hunt for things, you know, make them sit and stay and then recall, and then let them hunt as a reward, you know. Do a little bit of heel work and then let them chase a ball and hunt for it, you know. So just keeping the basics there, but just keeping their mind busy and with you. That's the main thing, is that they can have so much fun on their walks without you, can't they? They can chase squirrels, they can dig holes, they can play with other dogs, they can find water. But that leads to a dog that's less interested in you than the environment, and then you're going to have recall problems, and just bond, you know, the bond and the connection is just weaker. So it's gun dog work helps to create a really strong bond, to have a dog that wants to be with you, and you're not battling anymore. They're choosing to hang out with you, and that's the most important thing.
You know, just listening to you, I can tell you that in the first year, I had no choice but to learn as much as I could, as fast as I could, because that liveliness you're talking about, Teddy was not giving me any respite. He was telling me, come on, let's do. Yeah. And of course, you know, I also was having to learn about calming and how to calm. But I used to spend quite a quite a few nights awake, dreaming up games that we could play. And while we were out, he's not a dog that's interested in ball games.
No.
He really not. So I used to do foraging games for him. If I threw a ball, then it was to distract him while I hid something for him to go find, that kind of thing. He loves it, and scent work, absolutely. Yeah. It's his favorite thing is doing scent work.
Yeah, it's using the nose, the end, because he's with the dogs that are bred to what we call the hunting breeds. Their job is to hunt and flush and find scent. The actual finding scent is really, really powerful. The actual finding a retrieve item, an article or thing to bring back isn't strong for a lot of dogs. So for me, with teaching gun dogs, the hardest part of teaching, because the spaniel I've rehomed back in November, he had the hunting and chasing nailed, perfect at that, the best. The actual bringing anything back wasn't so bothered about. So I had to click a train, a retrieve behavior on an item, so that I had reliability out there, that when I did allow him to chase a ball, he would bring it back, so that I could give him time to hunt and stuff. But I had him in close quarters, because he would choose to hunt 200 meters away rather than close.
So this is, I suppose, a slightly tough question, which is, many people are not keen on the idea of hunting, and they certainly don't like their dogs hunting. How do you deal with that?
Well, they are obviously dogs, and we've domesticated them, but some of them have very strong desires to hunt. And I think if you try and stop that, you're going to have frustration behaviors in every part of your daily life. And I think it leads to rehoming. People just can't. The dog I've taken on was rehomed because on walks, he just used to run off hunting hedges and chasing squirrels, and if he caught it, he would rip it apart, and the owners had no recall, because his reinforcer was out there and not with them. Didn't matter what food they had, they didn't understand his needs. So you can't stop it unless you put them on a lead their whole lives, obviously, which is not ideal, but you can manage it really well using long lines, using teaching them in ground that they can cope with, where it's not too stimulating, a really decent recall, where you pay them with what they love. So it could be foraging, hunting, for whatever they want. And you've got to build up the distraction level, so you don't put them in that environment where they've had a kill, where they've had success in a hedge. Just keep them away from that until they've got a recall, till they've got a connection with you, till you've taught them a retrieve, till you've taught them to quarter. So spaniels will learn a hunting pattern close to you, where they hunt left to right in front of you as you walk forward. If you've got that, they're with you, aren't they? And they're not hunting that hedgerow down the bottom of the field. So we sort of manage with long lines, these hunting machines that won't listen, and then we teach them the gun dog games, so that you can actually have them off lead eventually, but they're really responsive to you. I mean, Loki now, I've had him 6 months, and now he's off lead, but the first 2 months he was on a lead, because there was pheasants in my fields from the shoot, and he was flushing them, and if he caught one, he would be off, with his trophy, like we said.
Yeah, indeed. Well, if people want to, if they're in your part of the world and want to get in touch with you in Wales, how could they do that?
Yeah, well, I've got a couple of things. So my trainer's still in Surrey, and I've taught her everything, obviously, and that's leadandlisten.co.uk, that website. We're also on Instagram and Facebook at Lead and Listen. And Mid Wales is where I'm based now, so you can go to completelygundogs.co.uk or midwalesholidays.co.uk, because I've got a holiday let here, so people come up and stay on the 15 acres small holding, and they get to train their dogs and have a holiday at the same time. We do a membership as well, so if people don't live in either of those areas, they're from Europe or Scotland or wherever, we do an online membership, so you can access all the videos on how to teach your dog to stop on the whistle, to quarter, to retrieve, via Facebook private group, and you get one-to-one calls with me, sort of, you know, private sort of one-to-one tuition for a monthly fee, so they can have a look at, and that's on my Completely Gun Dogs website, all the information for that.
Well, that sounds perfect. And I just wish I had met you when I was in those early days wondering what to do with my wonderful cockapoo. There we have, there's always room to learn more. So we may yet be getting in touch with you. Collette, thank you so much
Lovely.
for on Pet Talk today. I
No
wonder,
problem. Thank you for inviting me.
would you like to say goodbye, Teddy? Come, would you like to say goodbye? You say goodbye. Bye-bye. Oh, we did have a paw going up. Say bye-bye. Can we do that again? That's thank you.
He's so cute.
Thank you, Collette. And
thank you. Lovely to speak to you again.
thank you for joining us on Pet Talk today.